I begin to. I begin to.
You know how the wildfires in Hawaii actually started and who's actually trying to cover it up? Because if you see,
there are no coincidences. It's no surprise that of all the islands and all the places on Maui, Lahaina was the one that burned to the ground. All the while all those indigenous people have been fighting for that land, fighting for their own land that was literally stolen by our governments, forcibly stolen. And then we have people who don't understand this history and are still going out to Maui as if it's their playground. This system is so sick. It's disgusting. And it's no surprise that all of this happened during the Lionsgate portal, one of the most powerful times of the year. There are no coincidences, folks.
Do you know there's already books for sale on Amazon about the Maui fires? How could you get a book written and published that quick? Those fires started on August 8th. Today's the 15th. This book, Fire and Fury by Dr. Milestone. Milestone? You mean Milestone? Was published on August 10th. That's 2 days after the fire started. So how did somebody named Milestone get a book written and published in 2 days? But he's not the only one. This book, The Maui Lahaina Fire by Joel Bradson, took 3 days to write and publish. Well, he's just a lazy bastard. The news stories took longer to come out than these books. Maybe I'm just naive, but how is this even possible? Heck, the cover of this book shows the devastation, and it was written before the fire stopped.
The Rock, Johnson, and Oprah Winfrey have created a fund to make direct payments to people in Hawaii who have been affected by Maui wildfires. The People's Fund of Maui aims to make monthly payments of $1,200 to the thousands of victims of the fires that swept the island this month. The two celebrities donated $10 million to kick off the fundraiser and are asking for further donations from the public. The death toll officially stands at 115, but many remain missing 3 weeks on. The money will go to adults whose homes were destroyed by the wildfires in Lahaina and Kula on Maui. People being able to have their own agency, being able to make decisions for themselves about what they need and what their family needs. That's our goal, Winfrey said. Even in the most difficult of times, the people of Maui come together and we rise. That's what makes us stronger, The Rock said. The Federal Emergency Management Agency has offered an initial payment of $700 for immediate needs, but many have said the money does little to help with long-term recovery.
Here's the truth about the Maui situation that they don't want you to know. I've been trying to post this like 10 times. They keep taking the videos down, and I don't know what the hell's going on, but if this gets through, you better save it. Now, if you put on your thinking cap and you ask yourself why Mark Zuckerberg, Oprah Winfrey, Bill Gates, and all of these ultra-rich billionaires have land in Maui, yet the individuals native to this land, the indigenous people who have the birthright to this land, can't even afford housing, then you know something suspicious is going on. Now, with what's going on with the climate crisis and all of the different things that have been taking place over the past few decades, if you look at what is taking place today, we're seeing an increased levels of gentrification as well as a widening gap between the rich and the poor. And this is going to continuously get worse, especially with more climate crises and people all over the world indigenous to their land. And the exploitation and the effects of colonization are going to continue to exacerbate, and the acceleration of the destruction of our society is going to cause these people who are disproportionately affected and already marginalized to continuously suffer. It is up to you and me, the individuals who are conscious to the veils that have been placed on our society and the media manipulation, to actually take some sort of action, raise awareness, or to do something. Because at some point in time, it will affect you and it will affect every individual on this planet, but it will affect the indigenous people disproportionately first.
This was planned years ago. It's now happening. And all the poor people, the homeless, the hardworking people of the hotels, the kapuna, we lost everything. So you could have your satellite city.
Why is our town burnt down? Why are our families' houses gone? And if you can explain that to us in a logical, reasonable way, we'll accept it. But right now, there is no explanation.
A small family had to evacuate, and their property manager had the nerve, because their house was filled with ash, that they didn't deserve to still remain in the property because they left the windows open when they were evacuating.
Most of them are they're even worse off now. I'm coordinating hospital visits because of the way that the system and the governor has imposed rules without any dialogue with any of the people who are doing the work on the ground.
Lahaina needs to decide what happens in Lahaina.
So today we're going to give a little update on the Hawaiian fires. Now I want you to look at this footage, and this sure doesn't look like a fire to me. It looks like something almost exploded or something went off. Now what's interesting is certain things are still standing while other things are not. Now the governor did say this is climate change doing this. Interesting. What they don't talk about is in January how they had in Maui a smart city conference to turn Maui into an entire smart island, changing everything to electric, renewables, solar panels, and pushing everybody into electric vehicles. 15-minute smart cities. So now what's also interesting is next month in September, Hawaii is hosting the Digital Government Summit utilizing AI to govern the island. It's almost like they're resetting something to start rebuilding for this in which they're trying to push. Now when we look at all the climate change narrative that they're going to try to push, but they're not going to talk about the Weather Modification Act of 1976. I highly recommend everybody look into this act, because who is involved in the weather modification activities? Department of Agriculture, Department of Defense, Department of Interior, EPA, and NASA. So if they're modifying the weather, then could they have caused this event? So if we see that the Department of Defense and other factions are responsible for modifying the weather, well then if we look at direct energy weapons, we can maybe see how this can all relate.
Did The Simpsons predict the fires in Hawaii?
Biden just announced he is sending $700 per household to everyone affected by the fires in Maui, Hawaii. Now, if you're an adult in 2023, you know $700 is nothing, especially when you're sending it to relieve victims whose houses look like this. Like, bro, what are you going to do with $700? What are you gonna do? Stay at a hotel for a day or two in Hawaii? Brother, it's cooked. It's like $700 is gonna help them. And just some more photos, like pure whole entire neighborhood's gone, vanished. They gotta start life all the way over, and you're giving them $700 to do that. Now, while we can be grateful for getting some support and some relief, we have to check this, man, and say that's just simply not enough. And honestly, we have to check all the politicians, because they have sent $113 billion to Ukraine. But when it comes to our own citizens, $700. Start your life over. What do y'all think about this?
Then you're about to be in for a rude awakening. How is it possible that we have cars literally melted into the ground, yet trees are still intact? I'll tell you how this is possible right now. It's called direct energy weapons. Check this video out. Now I know that was quick, but they're doing their best to scrub these videos from the internet. People caught this on camera, them hitting Maui with high power lasers. If you truly believe the mainstream narrative, you have no idea how far you are from the truth. And here's the after. Look at this. There's still green on the trees, yet houses are incinerated. It does not make sense. Do you guys know about the Weather Modification Act signed in 1976? When you hear climate change, it's these people that are causing climate change. You think it's just a coincidence that these properties were highly sought after by major corporations to turn them into 15-minute smart cities? How is it the military is denying people from bringing in supplies and trying to help? Do you think it's just a coincidence that the governor passed a bill about a month ago that can take away the land of the people if they need to rezone? Seems like certainly convenient measures to rezone, eh? These fires have the exact same similarities to the fires in California. Everything absolutely incinerated, but trees still standing. Now I know it's extremely tough for people to use their own common sense and critical thinking, but all you gotta do is research Agenda 2030, research direct energy weapons, research weather control and the hundreds of patents they have on it, and you'll see the truth. Wake up, people. Peace and
We were so concerned about what was happening in Maui.
You're so concerned about what's happening in Maui that you somehow managed to hire a private firefighting team to protect your land before the fires started. You're so concerned about what's happening in Maui that instead of taking some of that land and housing even a small portion of those displaced people, you've hired a private security team to keep them off your land. You're so concerned about Maui that you simply haven't had time to denounce any of the shady real estate deals which are robbing people of everything they have. You know, like the ones you were involved in that helped you acquire that land for pennies on the dollar of what it was actually worth. You're so concerned about Maui that instead of taking what would amount to a year's salary for you and 4 or 5 of your billionaire friends, which could be used to rebuild the entire place in a matter of months, you're jumping on social media and asking the American public, most of whom can't afford to pay their rent right now, to do it for you. You're so concerned about Maui that it's more important that you get social media points than that you help.
Time to uncover the truth surrounding the catastrophic fire that tore through the historic town of Lahaina in Hawaii. Buckle up, because this is going to blow your mind. Let's start with the fact that the fire marshals happened to be conveniently out of town that very night. How convenient, right? It's almost as if someone wanted to ensure that there would be a delay in response, leaving the town vulnerable to the inferno. But wait, there's more. The mayor and the governor were also curiously absent. What are the odds? It's alarming how key figures were conveniently away when their leadership was needed the most. It raises suspicions of a coordinated effort. Now let's talk about the evacuation chaos. People desperate to flee for their lives were shockingly told that it wasn't time to evacuate, forcing them to turn back into the raging fire. This is an outrage. Lives were put at risk, and it makes you wonder why authorities would discourage evacuation when every second counted. But here's the kicker. No cops on the bullhorns, no firefighters in sight, and a complete absence of warnings. How can this be? It's almost as if someone wanted to ensure that the town was left defenseless, trapped in the path of destruction. And let's not forget the anomalous wind directions. Reports have surfaced of wind patterns that simply don't add up. It defies scientific explanation. It's almost as if these unusual wind patterns were engineered to fan the flames and maximize devastation. To make matters worse, tourists were swiftly evacuated by bus, while locals were locked in, forbidden to leave. This is a clear distinction between who they deem worthy of rescue and who they left to face the fire. It's a blatant disregard for human life. But what truly breaks my heart is the fate of the innocent children. School canceled, leaving them at home while their parents were at work. The thought that hundreds of children may have perished in this tragedy is unbearable. We cannot let this go unnoticed. Some may call it coincidence, but I call it the ugly truth. This is not a conspiracy theory. There are just too many coincidences. We must open our eyes and acknowledge the harsh reality that
I have been trapped in Lahaina for the last 4 days. And I experienced firsthand what was going on there. What I went through is not important. I need to get this message out. This was not a natural disaster. This was a direct energy attack on the people and the place of Maui. If you know what lives there, what descendants live there, you know why. And you know why it happened on 8/8. And if this is not something that you believe, It's time to stop being a sheep. They came in and they took control. There were trees standing and the buildings gone. This system, this weather system, came in from the mountains, from the east. That does not happen. They were not telling people anything. They were not letting people in to help. And they were letting people go in to get burned alive. There were people burning alive in the streets. There were people dead in the water. There were hundreds, if not thousands, of people that died. What they're telling you in the news is not true, and I lived it firsthand. I sat with the people. This is not to bring fear, this is to educate, because there is darkness that is being hidden. And soon people are going to see. I know now why Gaia sent me there. And I'm going to use this platform. There was no warning. There was no nothing. Please boost this post. I want everybody to see this. I don't give a fuck about me. I want everybody to see this. What they're telling you in the news is not what happened.
There's apparently over 1,000 body bags in massive containers and refrigerated trucks on the other side of the island right now. The government's trying to blame them. They didn't sound a siren. There was no helicopters that came. People had gone and picked their kids up from school and brought them home and left them home. There was a 10-year-old girl with a crib with a baby in it. There was no warning. No military came. The whole community is mourning the deaths of over 1,500 people. They killed innocent men, women, and children by not helping, by not sounding alarms. People were asleep in their homes with their babies and their children.
You want to expand upon that?
So what I've heard is that they pulled the water out of the pipes to fight the fires, and then they put the water back in the pipes or from some other source.
This Hawaii eviction notice is circulating the internet.
They're giving eviction notices to people whose houses didn't burn down. That shouldn't be legal.
And have gone viral that the landlord asked the tenants of one of the houses that survived the fires in Hawaii to evict within 45 days. The notice reads that the mayor have asked to evict the house to turn it into a command center to rebuild Lahaina. Allegedly, mayor office denied that they asked him to turn it into a command center. According to 808 Viral, after contacting the mayor office and verifying that the mayor did not ask to turn it into a command center and the information was false, and that it's illegal during a state emergency to do a 45-day eviction. Also, they stated that it's prohibited to raise any prices and sell during state emergency. And some claim the landlord was just greedy, allegedly. Then it says deposit will be returned based the house being in the same original condition, even though there was a wildfire. The date is September 31st, even though the last day of September is the 30th. The tenant has shared an update that the landlord backed out because of the online backlash. What do you think about this?
Oprah could come in. Who is she? Who is she?
Hearing what the locals are saying during Maui City Council?
We couldn't even have our pastor come in and ask us if we need prayer in the very beginning, but Oprah could come in. Who is she? Who is she? They said, oh, she knows the governor. We didn't need her in there in Bowen High. Get her out.
With the tragic events that happened in the Hawaii fires, these residents were there, attended the Maui City Council to voice their voices and share their frustrations.
Nobody called us. Our phones didn't work from 5 in the morning. The fire was not 10 o'clock when I went to work. The fire was still there. There was no water. Tell me if that's coincidence. No water, no warning.
This woman stated that they couldn't watch the news due to power loss. The residents were understandably frustrated at the city council.
Everything beyond the civic center is there, but the homes where we were working, where we're scraping.
Their homes are gone and they lost many loved ones. Our prayers goes out to them.
Years ago, now 15 years ago, I was in Washington doing Meet the Press. It was a sunny Sunday. And lightning struck at home on a little lake. It's outside of our home, not a lake, a big pond. And hit a wire and came up underneath our home into the heating ducts, the air conditioning duct. To make a long story short, I almost lost my wife my 67 Corvette and my cat. But all kidding aside, I watched the firefighters, the way they responded. You know, there's an old expression. I grew up right across the street from a fire hall in Claymont, Delaware. And when I was on the island last week, I appointed Bob Fenton, one of the nation's leading emergency managers, and I mean that, that's not hyperbole, who's been on the ground in Hawaii since before the fires erupted.
Wait, what? He appointed an emergency management guy before the fires erupted on Maui? What is Joe Biden? Nostradamus or something? Or is something nefarious at play here? Listen to this whole soundbite. It's bizarre. Why would you appoint an emergency manager before the fires erupted? How did you know there were going to be fires?
To that end, when I was on the island last week, I appointed Bob Fenton, one of the nation's leading emergency managers, and I mean that, that's not hyperbole, who's been on the ground in Hawaii since before the fires erupted as our chief federal response coordinator to lead our long-term recovery on Maui.
It's that kind of thing that has everybody asking questions about what happened on Maui. We want answers. We want a real investigation. The people there deserve it.
Welcome to my channel. For the latest videos and wall post, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the like button, share with your family and friends. Thanks for watching.